Hey guys, I've got a different kind of talk today. I want to get something on the record, and to be quite honest, I'm probably a bit motivated just to get something off my chest. The core of this talk is more personal than most, but as always, I intend to use the topic to address what I think is the greater lesson, because the greater lesson is always more important. I got a little bit of pushback on my last video, the one addressing Professor Jordan Peterson's remarks about MGTOW. And of course, I'm hardly surprised. I've been here before, and I'll be here again. That you can count on. As an example of the dissent, I got a particularly lengthy series of comments from someone named Will Baker. It is too much to dissect here piece by piece, but it is still in the comments to the Peterson video, and I will link you to it in the low bar here using an unlisted page at anearformen.com. I think the guy is completely wrong, but he deserves to be heard fully in his own words. I'm using Mr. Baker's comments not because he was alone in his dissent, but because he covered a wide range of the objections from others that rolled in about my criticism of Dr. Peterson. Baker was similarly upset in the past of my public criticism of Christina Hoff Sommers, which also plays a role in this talk. Baker's really passionate about all this, as you can see in his comments, and he's not the only one. So let me explain my position on this fully, and why I think it is so important to the overall picture for my particular version of red pill masculinity, by telling you a little bit more about myself. I was awakened to men's issues back in 1993 when I read The Myth of Male Power. I'd been quasi-aware of them for some time, but really hadn't been able to put my finger on anything. At any rate, at the same time that I became aware of those issues, and quite inseparably, I was also awakened to the concepts of male disposability, gynocentrism, and misandry. It wasn't long after that, perhaps even immediately, that I also discovered what I wanted to do with my life. To reach out to men with an alternative view of themselves, without the feminist demonization and without the traditional expectations of sacrifice and utility. I wanted to take my counseling background and encourage men to explore a new vision of themselves without regard to social consensus, or at least to the worst parts of it. I knew from the beginning that there was no way to address all of this without confronting that same male disposability, gynocentrism, and misandry I had come to see as the problem. And I knew I had to confront them with force. I knew immediately that it would put me at odds with the world around me, and it did not take much longer to figure out that it would occasionally put me at odds with people who also claimed to be quite earnestly concerned about the issues facing men and boys. For that reason, and a few others, I have never asserted that I'm a leader. I have been on record many times about the fact that I don't want to be a leader and that I reject that mantle regardless of who wants me to wear it. Mr. Baker and some others I've encountered over time insist that I don't have a choice in that matter, that I am by default a leader whether I want to be seen as one or not. Those people are wrong, and I can briefly point to their mistake in this as a valuable lesson for other men. Society only gets to put you in a role when you allow it. Where it concerns men, society, and even factions that look a little red pillish are quite enamored with their imagined ability to put men in roles, whether it is the role of leader or of weasel. But that's a minor point bordering on digression, so I'll move on. Why would I call out Dr. Peterson on his remarks about MGTOW when Peterson is doing such a bang-up job confronting and challenging a lot of ideologues who are undoubtedly misandric bullies and who count on and even mock male disposability? For that matter, why have I called out others who are similarly seen as allies in this current culture war? Isn't this promoting a circular firing squad? Am I not hindering the efforts of these good people? Aren't I as Mr. Baker suggested in his comment, doing something that drives movements over the edge of a cliff. I called out Dr. Peterson's pathologizing remarks about MGTOW because MGTOW isn't a pathology. It is the rational, unavoidable response of men pushed to the edge, which lends a certain irony to Mr. Baker's concern about my driving whatever movement he wants to imagine I lead over the edge. Aren't Mr. Baker and the other commenters you can find in the comments to that video pushing disdain for men who go their own way, really doing the pushing here? Aren't they pushing those who have already been pushed to extreme choices? Now, is MGTOW a perfect response to the current zeitgeist? No, but that is not a condemnation considering that men have simply not been left with perfect responses. By the way, as it turns out, Peterson's remarks on MGTOW were not the only time he has demonstrated really misandric ideals. Commenter BoraBosna, a longtime subscriber, brought more to the discussion. His comment with links is at the bottom of the low bar here. So, here's the deal, dear people. Like I said in the start, my efforts, my job, if you will, is to point out the problems of male disposability, gynocentrism, and misandry, to do my best to offer men an alternative, and it matters not what the source of those problems are. One look at my subscriber count will tell you I am not here for popularity's sake. I don't attack feminist ideas and feminist behavior just because it's popular. In fact, I was doing it a long time before it was popular. I like to say I was anti-feminist before anti-feminism was cool, and dare say I have played part in the emergence of that modern coolness. But for me, this was always about men, men's rights, men's autonomy, and men's well-being, the most overlooked and misunderstood problems of modern times. And one thing I've learned well and repeatedly over the years doing such advocacy: being anti-feminist doesn't mean you give a damn about men. And in fact, it can provide a very deceptive cover for a great deal of misandry. What's more, challenging that kind of misandry can bring the same style of heat on you that anti-feminism used to. I publicly dissented from Christina Hoff Sommers for pushing gynocentrism and the social contract that demanded mindless chivalry from men. I challenged her on a distorted feminist interpretation of statistics on poverty that she used to justify calling herself a feminist. I got showered with nasty comments and emails, including a couple of scorchers from Milo Yiannopoulos, who later canceled his planned talk at one of our international conferences on men's issues. I also wrote critically of Milo when he was advocating for male genital mutilation because of the style of penis he preferred for oral sex. Some close associates of mine expressed deep concern about that one. I have often referred to the rampant gynocentrism involved in the pickup artist community, and even clashed with a vocal minority who called themselves MGTOW when I saw them acting like ideological dictators, appointing themselves as the arbiters of other men's identity. And I maintained that stance even as they tried to disingenuously spin it into me criticizing MGTOW generally, which I was not doing. There was plenty of downvotes and nasty messages to be had there. Now, have I been right every time? Well, of course, I think I was, but that is my subjective belief. I'm arrogant, but not arrogant enough to think I can't be wrong. What I can say objectively is that every time this happened, I was, in my heart and mind, following my own values and the course of advocacy I laid out for myself 24 years ago. I was doing what I thought was right and nothing less. I know that a path like that will alienate some people, and I won't say it never bothers me. I'm comfortable enough in my own skin, but I am quite human, complete with the capacity to feel the sting of disapproval. But I don't ever intend to stop. I didn't stop when the mainstream media published literally dozens of hit pieces on me and my work. I didn't stop when they threatened to kill me and the AVFM volunteers before the conference in Detroit. I didn't stop when they dug back 35 years into my past, trying to find any dirt they could to use to silence me. And I don't plan to stop because Will Baker or anyone else with a computer and control issues wants me to stop talking about male disposability, gynocentrism, and misandry when those things are coming from one of their sacred cows. My allegiance is to my advocacy and my values and nothing else. And to me, that is the larger lesson for red pill men and, for that matter, red pill women. This path is a lonely one. Red pill philosophy is saturated with an abundance of wisdom, so much so that some of it will be appropriated for other agendas, as we now see happening in what I call the phenomenon of entertainment anti-feminism. I'll do a podcast on that at some point in the future. That is where the line blurs between advocacy and celebrity. The surest way I know to keep yourself among the former and out of the latter is to put values and principles before personalities and politics. That is the more costly route as well. But then again, it's hard for me to imagine anyone subscribing to red pill philosophy without knowing that it means a lot of standing on your own. It is at the very heart, in my mind, of going your own way. For the record, and for anyone interested, I have no grudge at all with Jordan Peterson. In fact, I love a lot of what he has to say. The same for Summers and Milo, who I think has gotten a particularly raw deal of late. I still think PUA is better than blue pill traditionalism, even if I think it is misguided, and I will support MGTOW till I die, whether the problems that started that trend are fixed or not. No one owes the world anything, and men certainly don't owe the world an explanation for taking the solitary trail in life. It's simply no one's business how anyone else chooses to live. I hope this talk has been helpful to explain the attitude with which I approach my work. I also hope it helps people who are disappointed with my so-called leadership understand that their disappointment is of their own making. I suggest that if a leader is what you need, that you become one. And if you think I am derailing a movement, then I can only say I wouldn't be part of a movement that is derailed by a little honesty and some hurt feelings. Let me also take this opportunity in closing to say thank you, and very sincerely, to the countless people who support my work even when you think I missed the mark. You are the great majority, and you're why I'm here and will continue to be here. To everyone else, I would just reiterate this one more time, then move on to other issues, using this talk as a convenient go-to reference for the future. I am not pretending to lead anyone. I'm just a guy with an opinion who is very interested in speaking out against the things I think are hurting men and boys wherever I find them. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.